Kenya is one of the most unique nation. I'm calling it a nation deliberately because somehow some people may call it a state because of its uniqueness. This country is a very unique nation regarding the character traits which are exhibited by most people of this nation. Kenya as a nation is a very unique kind of a nation. Among the many African states, Kenya happens to be one of the most popular states in Africa. Whether it is popular for the right reasons or wrong reasons, it depends on who you ask. But the fact is that Kenya as a country is one of the most popular countries in Africa or in the world because of the unique things that we do as a country or as a nation. What do I mean by this? In Kenya, since we got independence some 60 years ago, the citizens of this country has been yearning for change. Like there is a government of the day, but in most cases, governments are never popular. So like the people yearn for change. They want change shortly after the government has been put in place. Okay, so maybe we can trace it back. There is something I was listening to the Sapoti MP, Caleb Amisi, who was elaborating on this issue about the uniqueness of Kenyans, like the people. So he said, maybe we can trace it from Moi, when Moi was in leadership. Moi was in leadership, and at some point, Kenya was declared a single party state, whereby KANU was the only political party around which politics was being peddled. So by 1992, there was a clamor for multipartyism, whereby people struggled, the youth of the day then struggled so much for the country to regain multipartyism, because initially when Kenya was established as a state, it was a multi-party democracy. Later on, the country became a single party state with KANU as the only political party. So by 1992, there was clamor for multipartyism, which they were later granted by the then president, the late President Moi. Then after multipartyism came, the opposition then organized themselves around FORD, which was Forum for Reforms and Democracy, with the likes of Wingo Dinga, Matiba, and the group. Then they wanted change. They just wanted to change the leadership of Moi then. But somehow, Moi managed to manage them. The opposition then, where he split them to FORD Asili, FORD Kenya, and all those, then he ended up becoming president again in 1997. In 1997, there were so many partakers who were contesting for president with Daniel Moi, including Raila Odinga, the likes of Matiba, Kibaki then, who was with this party, DP, Democratic Party, and many others who contested in the 1997 general elections as presidents. So I want us to look at the characters who contested. It's where this uniqueness of Kenyans became very clear. Moi contested on KANU, Raila contested on LDP, Kibaki contested on DP, the likes of Matiba and all those people who contested for that election. But somehow, Moi won. And later on, he declared that that was the last term he was serving as president. And later on, he will either resign or he will just retire from politics. So the characters were Kibaki was there, Raila was there, Moi was there, the likes of Matiba were there, and all those people. So people still continued for the clamor for change. They wanted change. So when it came to 2002 general elections, Moi was retiring. Then Moi brought on board the likes of the young Kenyatta, Uhuru Kenyatta, who was a youngster then, to contest on a KANU ticket. Remember, shortly before the general elections in 2001, Raila folded his LDP party and joined KANU, where he became the Secretary General of the party, hoping that as Moi was retiring, he will just endorse him as the presidential candidate on a KANU ticket, where he had hope to lead the country in 2002. But somehow Moi went to western part of this country, Cheptais, Mount Elgon to be more specific, where he announced the flag bearer of KANU to be Uhuru Kenyatta. Uhuru Kenyatta was a contender in that election with Kibaki, with William Ruto, who supported Uhuru then, with the likes of Musalia Mudavadi, Jirongos, and Raila Odinga, and all those people were present. Remember, when Kibaki was vying for the presidency, he wanted change. He wanted to change the regime of Moi, which he thought was very outrageous. And at one point, he had served as the vice president in the same regime. So he wanted to change the regime. So I want us to look at this thing we are calling change. What are we changing? Is it the regime or the individuals? Raila didn't get an endorsement from KANU, so he broke away from KANU and he decided to support Kibaki, who was a front runner then. So they organized themselves with Uhuru fighting on a KANU ticket, Ruto supporting Uhuru Kenyatta, the likes of Musalia. So like they organized themselves and formed NAC, National Alliance of Rainbow Coalition. So Kibaki won an election then with Raila Odinga, the likes of Kibaki, Martha Karua, the Charity Ngirus of this world. So they won the election of 2002 because they wanted to do what? To change the regime. So later on, they didn't last for long in that newly formed coalition, where Raila came in at the rush hour to like harmonize and form a formidable force to win an election. So that coalition didn't last for long. Then Raila wanted change in that government. So remember, he was appointed as a minister, and all the others were placed, they were given positions of leadership in the first Kibaki government. So later on, around 2004, 2003 there, Raila broke away from the Kibaki government, terming it a bad government. So he wanted change. So when it came to 2005, when Kibaki wanted to change the constitution of this country, the first attempt by Kibaki to change the constitution in 2005, Raila had already broken away from the government, and Kibaki had reshuffled the cabinet, firing Raila Odinga and the rest. So Uhuru, who was the official opposition, joined hands with Raila Odinga, who had broken away from the government of Kibaki. I want you to see the similarity in this. Uhuru was the opposition because he was the second runner-up in the 2002 elections, so he was the opposition then. Raila was in government, but he wanted change, so he broke away from the Kibaki government and joined hands with Uhuru Kenyatta, with Ruto, who was with Uhuru, and the rest. Then when the amendment to the constitution came, or when they wanted to change the constitution, they found themselves in one corner. I want us to look at the characters who were present. It was In 2002, it was Kibaki against Uhuru. Kibaki with Raila Odinga and the rest against Uhuru Kenyatta. Because Kibaki wanted change of the KANU regime. So he wanted everything to do with KANU to just vanish, to go away. So Raila fought with Kibaki to dethrone KANU, where they won. So later on, Kibaki was left alone after reshuffling the cabinet. He was left alone with few of the close friends. So the likes of Raila Odinga broke away from the government and joined hands with Uhuru Kenyatta and the likes of Ruto to oppose the constitutional amendment which was proposed by Kibaki then. When the ECK chairman Kifuitu announced that there will be a referendum, and he gave the simples, those who are going to say yes will just choose a banana, then the no ones will take the orange. Raila with the newly found friends of Uhuru Kenyatta and the likes of Ruto coalesced around the orange, which was a no campaign. And that is when the Orange Democratic Movement as a party was born in 2005 around a symbol which was supposed to be for the referendum. So Raila wanted change. He wanted to change the same government he formed. Later on, they contested for that referendum and they won. Raila's side won with the no. So they stopped the changing of the constitution then. So then 2 years later came 2007 general elections, where Raila, who was with Kalonzo then, had formed a party called Orange Democratic Movement of Kenya, or ODM Kenya. Kalonzo also wanted to be the flag bearer on an ODMK party, and Raila also wanted to be the flag bearer on an ODMK party. So the Kalonzo aspect, the Raila aspect, the Uhuru, Ruto, Kibaki aspects, those are the people who are clamoring for change. It depends on the side on which you are standing. Before the elections, they had to choose a flag bearer. Raila insisted that he is the most eligible candidate to fly the flag of ODMK. Kalonzo refused with the likes of the now Makueni Senator Danny Maanzo, who refuted that Kalonzo must be on the ballot. So Kalonzo and Raila wanted to change the Kibaki leadership. So they clamored for change. Later on, Kalonzo insisted that he's going to the ballot with an ODMK party. Raila also insisted that he must be on the ballot because both of them wanted to change the regime of Kibaki. So Raila structured ODMK and he went away with ODM. Then he left ODMK to Kalonzo. So there was Orange Democratic Movement of Kenya and Orange Democratic Movement. So Kibaki confronted Kalonzo Musyoka and Raila Odinga on the ballot because both Raila Odinga and Kalonzo Musyoka wanted to change the regime of Kibaki. That election went the way it went. Everybody knows and nobody wants to remember what happened in 2007-2008. But Kalonzo found himself in the Kibaki government as the second in command, as the deputy president, or the vice president then of Kibaki. Initially, he wanted change because he thought the regime was a rogue regime, was a bad regime, so he wanted to change it. Raila also wanted change, to change the regime of Kibaki, but somehow Kalonzo Musyoka found himself at the midst of the regime as the second in command, with Kibaki the president, and Raila also was in that regime as the prime minister, where they shared power equally with Kibaki. So that went to 2010 constitution, where they changed the constitution. Uhuru Kenyatta was also in that government. Uhuru Kenyatta was in that government as the deputy prime minister from the Kibaki side, and Musalia Mudavadi was the deputy prime minister from the Raila side. So Raila had 2 deputies, and Kalonzo was the deputy or the vice president to Kibaki. Later on, they went to 2010, where they changed the constitution with William Ruto now, who was left out, becoming the opposition now to the constitution. He opposed the 2010 constitution, but he lost, so the constitution was changed in 2010. Then, 3 years down, 2013, there was an election whereby Kibaki was retiring. Then we had Kalonzo on board, then Raila was on board, Ruto was on board, Uhuru was on board, Musalia was on board. The likes of Wetangula now were incorporated into the arrangement. Then Uhuru, who were facing charges, criminal charges at the ICC then with William Samoei Ruto, they joined hands together with Musalia Mudavadi to contest for that election as a pact. Wetangula, who was introduced into the mix, also supported the Raila side with Kalonzo Musyoka now joining hands with Raila. Remember, Kalonzo was Kibaki's vice president, but now he was contesting to be the deputy president to Raila's candidature. So they went to an election and they lost to Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto, who were elected president and deputy president respectively. Then Raila found himself in the opposition with Wetangula and all the people around him and Kalonzo Musyoka. It came to 2015, where they also attempted to change the constitution through Okoa Kenya referendum kind of a bill, which was proposed by Raila Odinga or the CORD coalition. Then that failed. It didn't even see the light of the day. Then came the elections in 2017, where they had to contest again. Remember, all these, they were looking for change. Those clamoring for change clearly seems to be, it depends on the position where you are, so that you can clamor for change. Remember, all these stories are about the known individuals, the same people. Raila Odinga, William Ruto, Kalonzo Musyoka, Musalia Mudavadi, Moses Wetangula, and the rest. Those are the players of change and the leadership in the country. Since I started narrating this story, came the point at which they had to contest again in 2017. Now Kalonzo also supported, supported Raila Odinga. Musalia also supported Raila Odinga, with Wetangula supporting Raila Odinga. They were on the same side. They supported Raila's candidature in 2017 against the incumbents Ruto and Uhuru, who were president and who were deputy president and president respectively. They lost again. The Raila's camp lost. Remember, Raila was claiming for change. He wanted to change the regime because he thought the regime was so outrageous. But a year later, had an handshake with Uhuru Kenyatta, pushing Ruto to the periphery now, acting as the deputy president and at the same time as the official opposition leader. Ruto started pushing back his own government, where he wanted change. He said things are not okay and things are not going to be business as usual. So he wanted a change, to change the handshake government. Then came to 2022, where Uhuru Kenyatta has now changed camp from Ruto's side and supported Raila Odinga's side because he wanted Raila to become president. Ruto also pushed to change the handshake regime. Ruto won against Raila Odinga and he was declared president with Rigathi Gachagua as his deputy. That was in 2022. A year later, in 2023, there was an uprising where Raila was pushing for reforms was pushing for change on how things are being handled, cost of living and all that. He pushed to change the regime, or to change the policy of the regime. In 2024, somehow he had an agreement with the Ruto's administration and they formed a pact. Now they are on one side. I don't know whether whatever they wanted to change really changed, but they found themselves together. With the deputy president then, who was Rigathi Gachagua, being impeached because of the allegations which were substantiated in the due process. So he found himself out. So remember, this is the Ruto's administration. The policy has not changed. But Rigathi Gachagua, who somehow found himself outside this administration, is uniting, or is like coalescing with the other opposition leaders to push back on the government he established, which has not changed the policy. So he wants to change the Ruto's regime by saying one term, because he thinks his side, or the people he is working with, have the solutions for the problems we are facing as a country. So that is the merry-go-round this country has found itself in the longest, whereby we have the same monkeys shifting forests and clamoring for change. So they think that when you ask the Rigathi's camp, what do you have on board? What do you want? They say they want change. They want Ruto gone, because they think he is so bad and the policies are so bad that he is not even supposed to be given a full term to complete his first term as president. That's how silly they think Kenyans are. So they are now on the road saying one term, and unfortunately many people have bought the narrative that these people really want to change this country. And the sad side of the story is that Kenyans have been playing into the gallery. They have been buying the ideologies from all these people, thinking that if this camp gets to power, they will bring the change. Kenya will be a better country to live in. Then there is this pushback each and every time. So for now, we are at a position whereby the opposition side, the same Kalonzo Musyoka, the same Rigathi Gachagua, the same Ruto, the same Raila Odinga, now organizing themselves, the same Musalia, the same Wetangula, the same people, saying that if you give me power, I will bring change. But all these people have been in power at some point in one way or the other. People are not asking them questions. When you were in power, or you got to power because you wanted change, did you change it? Do you bring the change you wanted when you were in power? People are not asking them questions, but they think somehow if William Ruto goes, then change will come. It will be the same story. In 2027, who will become president, it will be the same people in government. Ruto won the election of 2022, but it was hard for him to lead the country alone. He had to incorporate Raila Odinga so that he could push a government agenda for the prosperity of a country as he thought it fit. Think of this. People are saying Ruto must go. So many people are there just ranting, Ruto must go. They don't want to see Ruto. But do you think the government which will be established in 2027, with or without Ruto, do you think Ruto will not be in that government? How can that government run without Ruto in it? From the history, it is very clear that even though all Kenyans gather in one corner to vote against William Samoei Ruto, he will be in that government, whether through the ballot or through the handshake. he will be in that government. So I'm not claiming to be having monopoly of opinion, but my opinion is that Kenyans have been fighting shadows for long. They have been thinking of the country, they have been thinking about policy around individuals. And if that one doesn't change, the situation is likely to be worse as we go forward. Remember, right now, many people, like there is so much noise in the country, people saying that Ruto is one of the worst presidents Kenya has ever had. But let's look at now William Samoei Ruto as the president. What is it that Ruto has done that is so outrageous that people are saying Ruto must go? What is it? I've been listening to people and I've heard many say different things. There are those who think Ruto is one of the most tribal person when it comes to appointments. Fine, you can say that, but really, is he the most tribal person in that office? Take for example, the current cabinet. The current cabinet has only 3 people from the Kenyan nation. Look at other appointments. Take for example, when Kibaki was in office, who was the CDF? Who was the governor of Central Bank? Who was the NIS director? Who was the DCI when Kibaki was president? Before you judge and say that this one now is very tribal than the rest who have been existing in this country. Who was it? Who was the Attorney General? Who are the police commanders? Okay, come to Uhuru Kenyatta now when he was president. Who was the Chief of Defense Forces? Who was the Governor of Central Bank? Who was the Attorney General? Who was who where? Come to Ruto and ask the same question. Is he really the most tribal person? Or it is the norm? And it is the politics, narratives, which people are pushing around? What is it? What is this thing that Ruto has done that is so outrageous that people are just fighting to see him out? What is it? Are we going through the merry-go-round? Definitely yes. We are going round and round. Ruto came on board when there were unemployment. The question of unemployment was not answered yet. He didn't fire people from offices so that he created unemployment. What he did, he came up with some policies which I can say are progressive, like the housing sector, which has employed so many people who didn't have jobs then. Look at what he has done at the coffee sector. Look at what he's doing in the sugar belt. Look at what he's doing in the maize industry. I'm not saying that he has performed best or he has done what he's supposed to do, but it is progressive. Whether you like it or not, he is progressive. But people are out here ranting that he must go. So that what will happen? Do you think the problem of this country is Ruto? Many people think so, that Ruto is the biggest problem Kenya is facing. That if he goes today, the problems of this country will go away. That is a person on a merry-go-round, peddling around political narratives from some quarters which have been there, which have been existing for the longest. The biggest problem of this country is unemployment. That's why you hear people say there is no money, there is no this, there is no this. It is because of unemployment. The few opportunities which are available are crowded. They are crowded by people who are struggling and trying to make a living out of it. So the biggest questions Kenyans should ask themselves is, how can we go forward? what are the real issues of this country? What are the biggest problems? What are the real challenges we are facing as a country? And if you are sitting there and thinking that Ruto is the problem, then I don't know how I can describe you, because Ruto is not the problem of this country. The biggest problem of this country is unemployment. There are budgets which are not people-centered. There are bad policies which can be debated and the country will be salvaged in the process. Now people are struggling. They are just demonstrating left, right and center, trying to dethrone Ruto, hoping that Ruto will go tomorrow. But ask yourself, what if he goes today? What will happen? There is no change that will come. Until Kenyans sit down and address the problems we are facing as a country, we are just on a merry-go-round. We are going nowhere. We are just going round and round circles. There is nothing we can achieve by changing regimes, because it is so evident from the past that regime change has brought no change. Until we change now the policy, how can we structure our government? We came up with a 2010 constitution which is so outrageous. Now, if there is something which has really plunged this country into chaos, it is the constitution now. Take, for example, devolution. Have you ever asked yourself, when they were devolving health, for example, what exactly were they devolving in this health? What is it? What are these governors doing with the power and the money they have? It has come to a point that this thing of devolution has totally lost meaning, and now governors can even oversight the national executive. You find a governor from some corner saying that Ruto has not created jobs. This one and this one have not been done by this regime. But have you done what you are supposed to do as the governor? How many jobs have you created in your county? What have you done in the agricultural sector? What have you done in the ECD? What have you done in the health sector? All those functions are devolved. What have you done as the governor? Or you think if you become president you'll do more, but you can't do nothing when you are the governor. The problems of this country is not William Samoei Ruto. Toka hapo kabisa. Ruto is not the problem. And if you think he's the problem, time will come, he will go. Then you will see what will happen in this country. There is nothing that will happen. The problems will just continue. The then president, the person who will become president then, will be the problem. Then you remove him, you will put another one. The next president will be the problem. Until we address the problem of this country, we are going nowhere. There is nothing, there is nowhere we are going as a country. So, going forward, can we sit down and assist the people in authority, the people controlling our money, to appropriate money the way it is supposed to be appropriated? Is there a way? What if, have you ever asked yourself, what if all this energy we put in place to push Ruto's government or to oppose Ruto and say Ruto must go, what if we channel the energy to the education sector? My opinion on the education sector is that I think so much needs to be done, especially around the funding of education. But can it be addressed by saying Ruto must go? That one can't help anything until we focus on the problem. We are in a problem. Until we address it, we are going nowhere. So the problems of this country are very clear. It is unemployment, and the result of this unemployment is misappropriation of funds. And this one is not done by the national executive. It is done by the National Assembly of this country. Parliament is the biggest problem. Until you address Parliament, Parliament is too big. Counties are too many. Take, for example, a county which raises around 200 million to the national basket in terms of the money collected from that county by KRA. But that county needs 2 billion, 3 billion, 5 billion to be run. Don't you think that's a problem? The problem of this country are systems we use for governance. It's not the governors. It's not the people in power. It is the system in which they are operating. So, if you want to sit down and address the problems, do so. And if you don't want, then we will continue to be in this mess for the longest.